Well, good evening. We're here for another Facebook Live, and this time we have two really impressive candidates with us. One is the seasoned Stephanie Cadieux, who's been in the legislature for 10 years on behalf of South Surrey, and the other one is Jet Sooner, who's now our candidate in Delta North, who's a really impressive individual. Stephanie, of course, has all this experience of having weathered the storm as a cabinet minister and being elected 3 times. On her 4th election now, and so she's expected to be a polished performer. Jet is our rookie and will be helping him through the evening as he finds his feet in this new environment of being a political candidate. So we're going to walk through the evening. This, of course, is dealing with 2 ridings that are basically south of the Alex Fraser Bridge. They are right down to the U.S. border in terms of Stephanie's riding, suburban ridings for the most part, and they have special issues, often related to transportation, and often related to the current COVID situation in terms of the local economics and the survivability of businesses in the current environment. So we're going to get into this right away, but first of all, we want to talk about a couple of things that have happened this week. We, of course, on Monday announced that we would be getting rid of the provincial sales tax entirely for a year to stimulate the BC economy, to give people a chance to get ahead, to give a family of 4 $1,700 extra in their pocket to invest in themselves and their children in the year to come. We would then take it down to 3% in the second year because we need to kickstart this economy. We've got to get British Columbia going again. And I think we all know that there's a big slowdown going on, and it's taking a heavy toll on our small businesses and increasingly on families. So with that background, I think we'll get this going. And Stephanie, we have to answer the questions on the screen. That's what we're here for. Please remember, if you want to go to slido.com, the instructions are on the bottom of your screen. You can submit your questions, and they'll be presented to us on the screen in front of us. So the first one is a classic question that Stephanie's so familiar with, and I'll just read it out. What are your priorities for South Surrey? Just the top 3.
Just
Stephanie?
the top 3. Oh, wow. You know, it is hard to prioritize the top 3 things that are important in Surrey. And for Surrey South right now, I'd say the 3 things that we just can't ignore are the transportation infrastructure issues. Now that starts with the Massey replacement that absolutely has to happen. People have been frustrated now for 3 years watching as weeds pile up on the sand that is wasting on the side from the project that was canceled. That's top of the list. But of course, then there's the feeder routes onto 99, which also cause a great deal of backup and frustration for residents in Surrey South, and those are priorities for me. Beyond that, you know, the next highest priority right now is the economy. Our small businesses are suffering. I've had conversations with small business people in the riding over the last few months, a number of which have now had to close their doors permanently. For some, that means their houses are being foreclosed on. For others, it means their retirement savings is down the tube along with their business and the jobs that they were supporting in our community. And to me, it's just heartbreaking. I'm really concerned about the viability of our small businesses through the fall and into the new year. And lastly, you know, the 2 biggies that are always there in any election, and that's health and education, because our community is growing so quickly. You know, we've got 10,000 or so units of new housing underway.
Wow.
And with that comes the need for added capacity in our schools, which you know, Andrew, have been a challenge for us for years and continue to be, and hospitals and healthcare. The added pressures that all of those new residents, up to $1,000 a month in Surrey, place on the healthcare and education system, we need to continue to address that when we're government.
Absolutely. And we'll be having more to say in the weeks to come about the prospect for a second Surrey hospital, because Stephanie knows this all too well. We had the NDP make dozens of promises, in fact 12 promises about a new Abbotsford hospital in the 90s. Yep. Nothing happened. Not a single hospital was under construction under the NDP in the 1990s. In the last 3 years, nothing has been built in terms of hospital care. The BC Liberals, the list is an arm long, starting with the Kelowna Hospital, the Royal Inland Hospital, the University Hospital in Prince George, the entirely new Abbotsford Hospital, the massive expansion of the Surrey Hospital. I can go on. So we're proud of our record in actually getting things done.
That's right. We get things done. We build it. We don't just promise it.
Exactly. Now, Jet, the next question I'm going to read out for you, and apparently it's for you. I know Jet's done a lot of work with engaging youth. What is the BC Liberals' plan to help at-risk youth? Now, Jet, tell us about your experience dealing with youth issues and at-risk youth, and what can be done to make this a better place for young people.
Yes, Andrew, as you know, I've done a lot of work with youth. We try to do that on our time off. While I was a police officer, we started this back in Richmond. I created a team visit with a group of police officers and university students to help kids, help young people. And we wanted to do this on our time off. So, kids would see that, hey, these guys are here, on their Sunday. There must be some sincerity. They must really want to help. When we created this, there was a lot of negative stereotype against South Asian youth. And I wanted to show the true image of South Asians and the youth, and show that, hey, 90% plus, 99% are good people, good kids. They come from good, humble families. That's how I was raised, and we just wanted to showcase that. So we got the group together, and we really wanted to, we did a lot of programs, sports, education, and to me, that's the answer. The education, proactive work, getting in there while they're at a young, impressionable age, we can make that difference. And that was my goal, Andrew, with the kids. And I was very lucky, very blessed to be part of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Still am, and this is even a bigger chance now with the BC Liberals to make a bigger impact across the province.
That's great. And can you give us a sense of what the opportunities would be in North Delta, basically west of Scott Road, because all of us know it's basically residential, and the commercial zone and a lot of the youth activities are on the Surrey side of Scott Road. So looking at it through a North Delta lens, what do you see as the opportunities there for getting youth engaged?
Well, I'd like to, like our parks, our tennis courts, our basketball courts, they're packed because, several different people are coming to our community, which is a beautiful community. My goal is to make it even better. But I always say, if kids got something to do, recreational activities, if you can get them into sports, whatever it is that, they have to have an interest. And a lot of people forget about the girls as well. Both of my girls play tennis. My boy played a lot of hockey, all in North Delta. And to me, that's the key. If we can keep them engaged, keep them, focused, there's a really good chance that we can have a successful kid.
That's great. Now, the next question is one of my favorites, along with Stephanie. The NDP promised everything under the sun to Surrey, but has yet to deliver. What will the BC Liberals do differently? Let's get the laundry list going first. Surrey Hospital, promised, not delivered. Surrey SkyTrain, promised, not delivered. Surrey Portables to be eliminated by now. Instead, it's gone up from 270 to 350. The list goes on and on and on. The taxi scenario, the trucking scenario, we just have seen no progress under the NDP on the Surrey issues. And we look back on our record and say, well, let's talk about Simon Fraser University's Surrey campus, massive construction project, $520 million Guru Nanak Pavilion at Surrey Memorial Hospital, $230 million Jim Pattison Outpatient Pavilion, Kwantlen University expansion. These are things we did that we're proud of. We got them done, along with the South Fraser Perimeter Road and along with the Port Mann Bridge. We could go on all night about the BC Liberal record. But Steph, I'm going to hand this back to you. Tell us about the NDP's record in Surrey over the last 3 years.
The NDP has been virtually non-existent, except to tell us how great they are. And it's really frustrating because the reality is that Surrey is a growing community that needs a lot of things. It needs schools, it needs hospitals, healthcare services. But all we're getting from the NDP is promises. We aren't seeing anything delivered. And that's the same as we saw in the 90s, unfortunately, and it looks like we're headed back there. The reality is we need that additional post-secondary capacity. We started that and started it again on that with the new expansion at SFU, the new tech building that's opened. Fantastic new building. There's more to do, and we have to look at Surrey as the next urban center of the Lower Mainland.
Absolutely.
And with that comes the necessary investments in infrastructure and services, and we know how to do that.
So I think we can say we're pretty proud of our record on conceiving good projects, getting them done, and delivering them to the public.
Yeah.
And sadly, we hear from the NDP that they're going to take a 4-lane bridge at the Pattullo and for $1.4 billion turn it into a 4-lane bridge at the Pattullo. That's NDP thinking. They did it at the Lions Gate in the 1990s. A 3-lane bridge was converted to a 3-lane bridge for $385 million. So we can do better, folks, and we intend to do better if we get the opportunity to form government through your goodwill. The next question is, how do we train post-secondary students for post-pandemic world when we really don't know what that world will look like yet? And I think we can all answer this in our own ways. And Jed, I'd go back to you and talk about those kind of life skills, the things that make you a good citizen by the time you're 20, 21 years old. It's more than just learning how to write and how to read. It's learning how to deal with other people. So do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Yes, yeah, obviously, COVID hit us, COVID-19, and I don't think the NDP had a really good plan. They had a lot of time to, figure out something for our kids. And, I've got 2 6- and 8-year-old kids in even elementary school. I can tell you in Delta, North Delta, and all of Delta, there's no plan for online schooling. We had the option of HomeQuest or full-time school. So that was not a good plan. I think for kids in general, and even as far as any type of training, we have to try to we have to go back to the basics, right, and ensure that we do put some focus back in the education system and have some consistency across the province to make sure that we really mean it.
Steph, do you want to talk a bit about the skills training that's gone on in Surrey and the massive expansion of SFU Surrey Engineering, along with all the programs that you and I talk about at Kwantlen?
Yep.
Things like nursing, trades training. There's been a huge growth there. And how will that fit into the post-COVID world?
Well, I think, the reality is that there are some, and speaking as the former critic for advanced education, the reality is that a lot of the skills are transferable between careers and jobs. And we need a highly skilled workforce going forward. We need people that are skilled, though, not just in technology, in computers, or in medicine or in law, but we also need people that are highly skilled in the trades. And there's going to be a lot more crossover between the fields, between the trades and the technologies as we go forward. So the universities are looking at and need to be looking at how to cross-credential people, how to train people with micro-credentials in certain disciplines to help make sure that everybody has the skills they need to adapt their career as things change and move forward. We've seen things changing with COVID. We've seen, though, already a shift in how the workforce is going to look in the future. We are going to need to really be adaptable. And so the skills that we learn as youngsters about adaptability, about the love of learning, are very valid skills going forward, and are going to help us and help us as we help the university and college sector adapt their methods and their structures to allow people to sort of enter that lifelong learning and lifelong career change approach.
And there's something that comes to mind for me that I think it was 2 years ago. I went to visit a plumbing contractor in North Surrey and thought, this is going to be plumbing. They connect pipes together and make the water flow and keep us all safe. Walked into this facility and there were 3 young people on big dual LCD screens mapping out the structure of a hotel, the water flows, the pressures, and all the modules they were going to tell their crew to construct, so they could go into this new hotel and click the modules into place and just screw the whole thing together. Yeah. I was just taken aback, and I said to them, this is plumbing? And they all smiled and said, this is plumbing in the 21st century. We're going to see that in medicine, where a lot of it's going to move to the virtual world. We've got to make sure that our workers, practitioners, experts are ready for that virtual engagement we're going to see more and more of post-pandemic. Yeah. So this is a very important thing for British Columbia to engage with. We're ready for it, we can do it. We just need the will to come from the provincial government. And unfortunately, we don't see much of that with the NDP. We seem to think that we're still in the 19th century in a lot of regards, keeping disciplines separate, nobody's allowed to touch each other's tools. That is so completely obsolete, and yet they're reluctant to admit it.
Yeah.
So another question, what would you say to families that are concerned about safety in their communities? Well, this is too easy a question for the police officer. Let's start with Stephanie, and then we'll bridge over to Jet.
You know what? This is a reality for everyone, but I think it looks different from community to community. In my part of Surrey, people are concerned about their safety and their safety for their families. And what can we do about that? Well, one is a sense of community. One is ensuring that neighborhood policing and the block watch programs are in place, because when they are, community comes together and feels good about knowing their neighbors and having that sense of safety. The reality is safety and security in terms of crime. The numbers are really good in Surrey, and they've been improving over time. And unfortunately, the media doesn't share that with us very much. So people have, I think, absorbed a sense of unsafety from what they see broadly in the mass media from all over the world now that we're so connected. But the reality is, in our communities close to home, we do need to feel safe. We do want to ensure that our kids can go out and play on the street and feel safe. And there's, I think, a lot we can do as community to help build that sense of safety locally.
Now, this is too easy a question for you, Jet, but
Yes.
give us a feel for community safety and how we can improve in places like North Delta.
Yes. Well, yeah, I live in Delta North. My experience as a police officer has been in 3 different detachments with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. I've worked in Surrey, North Vancouver, and my last one is Richmond. And we pay a lot of attention to safety, making sure that there's proactive patrols, make sure that we're out there in the community, working with the community. Steph mentioned Block Watch. Those programs are huge. When you get the community engaged, I found that the safest communities were the ones where the community was really engaged. They're reporting the crime. They're out there communicating. Some of the biggest block watches are in those areas where they're safest. I can say I've worked with Vancouver Police and Delta Police Department when I first started as a constable way back in the day. And even currently, I maintain relationships with them. And they are very much in tune with solving crime, making sure that we have a safe community. And I'm hoping that with this position, I have that impact across Lower Mainland and BC to make a bigger impact, so we can all work together. I think it's very important that all police departments, especially in the Lower Mainland, it's very important that we all work together and there's no silos.
So our next question is kind of fundamental to both of you. It's almost too pointed to resist. When will the Liberals start construction on the Massey replacement? We need to kickstart the economy and decongest south of the Fraser. Let me give you a little background. We went out Monday morning to do our announcement on eliminating the provincial sales tax for a year. We did it at the London Drugs warehouse, which is just on the north end of the Massey Tunnel in the industrial park there. London Drugs is seriously contemplating moving out of Richmond because they cannot tolerate having all of their trucks stuck in traffic on both sides of the tunnel. It's a huge cost and leads to uncertainty of delivery times, and it takes a huge toll on the truck drivers who are frustrated, annoyed, just can't get their work done. And most of us, including these two, have spent our share of time sitting in the lineup southbound at the wrong time of day and the lineup northbound at the wrong time of day. But the wrong time of day is turning into all day. You're lucky if you can go straight through the tunnel now on a weekday. And this has got to stop. It's a 1958 4-lane subterranean tunnel that goes under the Fraser River. And these plans we've heard to have a massive tunnel under the Fraser River are impossible due to Department of Fisheries and Oceans federally and killing off the salmon population. They're also impossible because the Tsawwassen First Nation has said, forget it. So that's not happening, but that's what the NDP have concocted. We put together a project that was supposed to be $3.5 billion budget. The whole thing, including $500 million in transit improvements, came in at $2.6 billion. What did the NDP do? They canceled it after $95 million had already been spent. Poof. And so what we're left with is there are these giant sandberms on the north side of the Fraser and on the south side. They're an embarrassment to all of us as we sit there in traffic with huge arrays of diesel trucks idling, drivers frustrated, work not getting done. It's crazy. So we have said it's time to move ahead with the Massey Tunnel replacement. We'll have more to say about that in the next week or so, and it's going to be the kind of thing that I told the Richmond News reporter. It's going to be a pretty provocative announcement, but we will get this done. So let's stay tuned, and I'm seeing smiles on the face of the candidate from Delta North and from Surrey South, because this is pretty important for people living in that part of the world.
It is really important.
Yes.
Probably the number one issue in this election is basically who botched the bridge.
Yes. Yeah, definitely, Andrew. I can say that, I talk a lot with my good friend in Delta South, Ian Patton, and we've discussed this quite a bit. We'd love to form that partnership and make sure that, Delta, I use that bridge, everybody, the tunnel. We all need it. It's going to help our economy, and all we've heard from the NDP is they're going to do more reviews, have more meetings, and look at it further. They got their priorities elsewhere. I don't think they care, and we need to. I think under Andrew's leadership with the BC Liberals, I really sincerely believe that we would have gotten it done already.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie, I don't know if we're going to rub the point in or if we made that point already.
I think we've made the point.
The next question is a very pointed one. Teachers do not trust Liberals. That's a strong statement, but how can Liberals restore the trust of teachers? And I back this up quite a bit and say, look, my older sister is a teacher. She's retired now. My in-laws are teachers. Teachers do a crucially important task in our society, getting kids through the K-12 system with an education that is equally accessible and equally solid for everybody. It's the great social leveler in Canada, and especially in British Columbia, that brings us all to the same place at the age of 17 or 18, where we feel like we're equally involved in our society. There's no us and them. We're all in this together. It's a very, very important function on top of the basic reading, writing, and arithmetic that could be done in any kind of format. But our school system does a good job. We've invested in it heavily. $7 billion a year goes into the school system. And I particularly am a big fan of a high quality kindergarten to grade 12 school system. And to my mind, that's how we restore trust with teachers. That's how we build the relationship, by telling them the work they do is fundamentally valuable in our society. We respect them for it and we thank them for it. Our next question. I voted NDP in the last 2 elections, but I strongly disagree with the Premier's idea to call this election. Why should I vote for you over the Green Party? Well, this sounds like a Stephanie Cadieux question if there ever was one.
Well, Andrew, this is one we've been asked a lot in the last couple of weeks as we heard that maybe there was going to be an election, and now that we know we're in one. And the reality is that the reason we're in this election is because the NDP doesn't believe they want to govern in a minority parliament anymore. They want power. They want to eliminate the Green Party. The reality is that we need to move forward in British Columbia. We need to move forward with an economic plan that will help all British Columbians recover from this pandemic. The health response is important. We've all been supportive of that. We've all, as citizens, come together and done what was necessary and will continue to do so. But building back an economy takes a skill set that only we have. This party has done it twice before, and we can do it again.
And Stephanie, I think of your experience and mine. We're just newly getting to know Jet, but I've come to know you over the last 10 years, really. And there's that sense in our party and the people we work with that we all came from pretty humble beginnings. And we made sure that we invested in ourselves and our families. We got ourselves going. We thought our job, our task, our purpose is to create opportunity for everyone in BC. Mm-hmm. Whether it's those young Indigenous kids that I treated up in Dease Lake in northwestern BC 30 years ago who are now grown up and adults, whether it's the people we run into anywhere in our own ridings, it's that sense of excitement and opportunity that we think British Columbia should offer to everyone, and everyone equally, so we all have a chance to get ahead, to get up in the morning and say, it can be better. I'm going to do my part. I'll make things better for myself, for my family, for my community. This is something we're deeply dedicated to. And unfortunately, it doesn't generally get much attention in the media because there's this stereotyping of left and right. And of course, the Green Party is kind of floating around in the middle. And we are also a party that gets stuff done. You know, we talk about our record building hospitals. It is unequaled anywhere else in Canada because it's a priority for us to actually get stuff done. Let alone bridges and other infrastructure. We actually complete projects that we say we'll do. So we're proud of that record, and we hope that you'll find the place in your mind to think that the BC Liberals are the party where you'll see things happen. And the Green Party are good people, but they're dedicated to the idea of some kind of utopian world where we can transform ourselves overnight into something that is very difficult to accomplish. We are a party talking about practical steps to get to practical places. And we think that's the right way to govern British Columbia and to get ahead.
Absolutely.
So Jet, I think you probably read the question on the screen.
No, I was listening to you, Andrew.
The question's pretty straightforward. Jet, how will your experience as a police officer shape your approach as an MLA?
Well, Andrew, you know, when we're in policing, 28 years ago, I joined policing. I was so excited, so blessed that I got to join the, you know, our national police force. And, you know, to me, it was about serving the community, building that trust. And people that know me, you know, they'll tell you that Jet's a sincere, honest guy, and I really try to, you know, I joined policing to help people, and that was the same reason 17 years ago we created Team Isit to work with the kids. So if you had asked me 28 years ago, 17 years ago, you know, was I doing that to, you know, did I have this in mind that I was going to be in provincial politics? No, this is a fairly new idea. And I'm pretty humbled that, you know, I've been selected and given this opportunity to represent the amazing people of Delta North and get a chance to do that same service, build that same trust, to know that, hey, they've got someone in their corner that's going to fight for Delta North.
So the next question that comes up is how can we get more women on the ballot?
Me.
I think this is going to Stephanie, but I just want to preface it by saying it has been really impressive, the women who have come to the fore in the last 2 weeks to say voluntarily, we haven't been recruiting them, they've been coming to us and saying, I want to run for the BC Liberal Party. We have Roxanne Helm in Oak Bay Gordon Head, Helen Poon in Mid-Island Pacific Rim, Lynn Anglin in North Van Lonsdale, Corinne Kirkpatrick in West Van Capilano. We have Cheryl Ashley in Mission Pitt Meadows. We have
Chelsea.
Women showing up everywhere across this province, including in the interior, people like Renee Merrifield in Kelowna Mission. These are people who've said, we believe in this party, we believe in what Andrew Wilkinson's trying to do, and we believe it's a good team to get things done on behalf of women throughout British Columbia. So Stephanie, with that introduction, over to you.
You know what? Thank you, Andrew. And absolutely right. We have an amazing team of women running with us in this election, and I'm thrilled about that. I am so excited that we're going to have the chance to work with these folks and hope that you as British Columbians will send them to Victoria to represent you. But I want to talk a little bit more about how do we get more women on the ballot, and not just for the BC Liberals, but broadly. Let's talk about that because we still haven't reached 50% women in our political offices. And you know what? I think we have to recognize as a society that if we want more women to run, we need to change the context in which we operate. We need to, as a society, remember that the people who stand for office are leaders in our community. We trust them. We've looked to them. And when they choose to enter politics, who they are hasn't changed, but how we treat them does. Being in politics opens you up to an awful lot of criticism and sometimes some pretty nasty attacks. It doesn't have to be that way. We can disagree on policy. We don't have to make it personal. And if you want to see more women on the ballot, we all have to take a responsibility of treating people with respect.
And that's a very good point that you make, Stephanie, because something that's really struck us in this election, and I say this sadly and reluctantly, is the daily dishonesty of John Horgan. Every day he says things that are simply untrue. They're often blaming us, they're often misrepresenting what we have to say, we're running a truthful campaign because we believe in a pandemic. It's an obligation of people seeking leadership to get the story straight, to be a straight shooter, to tell the truth. And it has been such a disappointment when Sonia Furstenau for the Green Party is doing her level best to tell the truth and be straightforward. We're doing everything we can to portray the truth and present a reasonable program to move us ahead. And yet we have the NDP and John Horgan spinning lies, basically. That's a huge disappointment. And I think it's the sort of thing you just pointed out, that women contemplating getting involved in politics see that kind of performance and see, Mr. Horgan's someone with no integrity. Why would I join that team? And we've seen a lot of capable women MLAs leave the NDP recently because it appears they've had enough. We think of two cabinet ministers, Michelle Mungle and Claire Trevena, who both said they've had enough and checked out after quite successful political careers. So with that in mind, the next question. Hi Andrew, how do you plan to increase revenue for our province other than raising taxes? So taking perspective on British Columbia, it's about a $250 billion economy. About $60 billion of that is provincial spending. And we have to maintain that investment in British Columbians during this pandemic, just as you do in wartime. You don't start cutting off social services when people are sleeping in their cars in the park that I ride my bike through every morning. Those people have run out of money. And it's not the time to start chiseling them and saying it's just tough and you're going to have to survive on your own. At the same time, we have to reduce people's taxes so they can actually get ahead in life and make these investments in themselves. So what does that look like in the medium term? It means that we need to grow this economy. We need to get people back to work. We have to make it possible for low-income people, and especially low-income women, to find the childcare they need to get back into the workforce, earn a living, and build their family income. That will lead to the kind of prosperity that will get us out of this deficit spending that every Western government is involved in right now. There are deficits everywhere in the Western world because right now there's no choice. But that doesn't mean you abandon the basic things that government does for people. That means you continue the role of government, which is the ability to borrow at very low interest rates in order to turbocharge our economy. Something I'm not ashamed to say, and Stephanie, I think you absolutely agree with that.
Absolutely agree. The social services that government provides, and you mentioned this earlier, Andrew, that we often as BC Liberals get painted as uncaring. And yet I came out of the social service sector before I came into government. That's where I worked. I worked with vulnerable people. And we are a caring group of people. Our job is to enhance and improve upon the services that exist. And certainly in a time like we're in now, it is absolutely essential that those services remain, that they are enhanced where possible and necessary, because we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to move forward, to move ahead, to live their life to the fullest that they can. And if we want to build an economy that can support that type of investment in people, then we have to be building the private sector. We have to be investing in things that create an opportunity for innovation to thrive and to move the economy forward. We are a small open trading economy, and we have to continue to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Now the next question is pretty much a financial one. 0% provincial sales tax for a year will help so many families save a bit of money. Let's remember, we want them to invest that money in themselves, get out in their community and do things, not just put it in the bank. How else would you help us keep more of our own money? We'll be rolling out more ideas in the near future, especially for small business, because you have to remember that small business is the driving force behind the BC economy. There are very few large employers in this province. We're not like Alberta or Ontario with enormous corporate head offices. There are just a few here. What we mostly have is a thriving small business sector that has been very flexible and very innovative and has done very impressive things in the last 20 years to build up this economy. We have to make it possible for those small businesses to have lower cost and regulatory burdens so they can get ahead and reinvest in British Columbia and in the people that they employ. So you'll be hearing more from us in the next week or so on this very topic. We'll go on to the next question. There's a momentous change coming to city design because of COVID-19. What will the Liberal Party do to enhance building and city design of the future? And I'm not sure if either of you are comfy in this one. Stephanie's a closet architect. So Stephanie, go ahead.
Well, you know what, on this, there is there are conversations happening amongst designers and amongst city planners about what does the city of the future look like. And I mean, these things happen on an ongoing basis. These conversations happen, things change, the ideas change. But I think we are looking at changing the way we design cities as a result of what we've learned through this pandemic. Looking at how do we design spaces that work for everyone, to be active, to be outdoors, to be safe, to commute safely, to live, work, and play safely. And Andrew, this will not come as a shock to you, but I have been advocating, and I'm a big fan of the fact that we need to make sure that when we're starting that design, that we're thinking not only of our public spaces, but of the places we call home. Because although we've done a pretty good job of thinking about those public spaces for everyone, we haven't been designing housing that works for everyone. And so for me, there's a spot in my heart for us to be looking at ensuring that everyone can live and age in place. And that means accessible design and looking at housing that works for everyone.
Well, and Stephanie's taught me this concept, so there's not only a spot in your mind, there's a spot in our platform for that very concept. Because we're concerned about everybody being involved, engaged, respected. And in terms of how our cities evolve, I think all of us would say, we don't want people giving up on transit and all getting on the freeway to go downtown to a job. People are now working from home and finding out it actually works very well. So we're going to see a complete change in those commuting patterns as people take up different ways of working. We're also going to see the kinds of things where distribution systems change as more and more people do things online, for better or worse. And we'll also see our retail sector become more and more an online distribution system. I was just out today at a very famous bakery organization in the Port Moody, Coquitlam area. And what they do is they have their central bakery in Port Moody, and it's now moved to a delivery model. They're selling less and less in the shop and more to the people who know and love them. So that's what we got to anticipate, is how we'll be living in closer communities. And we've also at the same time got to be wary of isolation and loneliness that can come from a pure work-at-home environment. So these are challenges we're all going to be tied into together. And what the architects call the built environment is a term I didn't understand, but now I'm starting to figure it out. And the built environment matters a lot. It's more than just the building itself, it's where it sits, it's the community it's in, it's the green space around it. And these are things we've got to get ready for in the post-pandemic world. So Jet, this last question is certainly directed at you. Jet, what differentiates you from the NDP candidate? And you're too kind and too gracious to say it, but Ravi Kahlon, who's the current NDP MLA for North Delta, is an aggressive, angry, corrosive, divisive person in the legislature. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Andrew, thank you. I think that, like I said, I'm sure he's a nice man, and he's got his ways. My thing is, we have deep roots in our family there. My kids, all three kids are being raised there. They all go to school. They all play their sports there. And to me, that's important. The love that I have, we have the relationships, with, several of my boys' teachers. One lives around the block. There's several others, one still from his elementary school that still contacts us. I think for me, I'm not going to be so focused. I'm not, someone that grew up in government and was, primed to go into politics. This came naturally, and to me, it's really, I'm a community person, and I want to take that love, that passion, take it back to Delta North. Put that focus back there, bring some consistency, bring some affordability. We had zero money spent for affordable housing there. And, the NDP candidate did not have much of a response when asked, why did you not, put any affordable housing in Delta North? His response was, well, they didn't do the application or something to that effect, which you can read about in the news. And to me, that shocked me. As an MLA, it would be my job to represent you and make sure that you know the process of how to apply and put you through so we get some affordable housing there. And, to look after other stuff like, what's important to you, Burns Bog, the environment, all those things. I mean, we use the trails, my kids and I, And I want to grow up there. I want my kids to grow up there, sorry. I want their kids to grow up there. And, we deeply care. And I think all three of us are very similar in that we all came from humble beginnings, and we're all very community-minded people. I've met people like Stephanie, just wonderful. Dr. Chima, he gives up this big practice. Andrew, right, lawyer, doctor, gives that all up to serve you, and that's how we're different.
So we'll have room for one more question, then I'll make a summary remark that's very flattering to Stephanie. What's your favorite part about working in politics, Stephanie?
People. You know what? While it can be the most challenging part, it's also the best part. Getting to know your community at such a deep level, from the individual needs and struggles of constituents that you work with and represent and help navigate through government services, to the community agencies that help keep the community ticking, like the food bank or the organizations that serve people with intellectual disabilities. The reality is our communities are just brimming with amazing people and stories of struggle and stories of success. And the way you get to know that when you're representing a community and have the opportunity and the honor to represent those people's views in the legislature is definitely the best part of being an MLA.
Well, Stephanie puts these things so sincerely and succinctly. It's a tough act to follow, isn't it, Jet?
Yes,
so
pretty darn tough.
The point that I'll make with Stephanie, and I think Stephanie and I have this kind of understanding with each other. There are things where we don't quite agree and other things where we are completely committed together. And I remember Stephanie saying, in response to a question that came up on the screen earlier, very briefly and went away, can you commit, Andrew, to working with all the MLAs? And I remember being so touched about 6 months ago when Stephanie said in front of our caucus something that I never thought I would hear. And she said she's never felt so engaged and involved and respected in a caucus as she has with the current team. And Stephanie, that meant a lot to me. And so I think I just want to thank you for saying that, because it meant that we are a very effective caucus who solve things together. We resolve issues together, we reconcile differing interests, and we come out with a positive agenda for British Columbia. That's why we do this job. That's why I took it on. I know that's why you took it on, Stephanie. And Jet, welcome to the team, because you're clearly rising to the occasion with a smile on your face, a positive agenda, and a plan for Delta North, where we can make that positive difference for everybody in British Columbia. So I want to thank the two people sitting next to me, the two Massey Tunnel replacement MLAs, one incumbent and one in the making. So thanks for being with us tonight, folks. I'm just going to give a final chance to say goodbye we'll start with Jet. Over to you. Final words.
Well, I just think, I honestly, sincerely believe that under the BC Liberals, I totally agree with their views of having a strong economy. Under Andrew's leadership, I sincerely believe that he has the intelligence and the deep care for our community to get them back on track, especially in these difficult times. And I can say for Delta North, I'm going to put the focus back on you.
Stephanie, over to you.
Well, I say thank you for watching. Thank you for taking an interest. And thank you for thinking of us. You have choices. And I hope that when you make your choice, you'll choose this team. Because as Andrew says, the BC Liberal team is a team of deeply committed, incredibly talented people across our province that want to make BC better for every British Columbian. Everyone deserves the opportunity, and we can deliver it.
And just to wrap up, a bit of our philosophy, we don't believe in friends and enemies. We don't believe in winners and losers. We believe in helping everybody to be the very best that they can be. We're committed to rebuilding British Columbia by restoring confidence as we make our way through the pandemic and making sure that this is a province where there's opportunity for all of BC. Thanks for watching, and thanks to my colleagues for being here. And if we were all as happy as we are tonight on election night, it's going to be a good day for us and for British Columbia. Thanks for watching.